In 1927, I decided man was operating on the most fundamental fallacy. He was operating on the basis that man was supposed to be a failure, and therefore he had to prove his right to live. And each man then thought he had to say, I can show how I can earn my living. The other people are supposed to die. I decided that the fallacy was that man, as designed, was designed to be an extraordinary success. His characteristics were just magnificent. And what would be necessary would really be to find out what were the great comprehensive patterns operating in the universe, how then the metaphysical man as mind could become the master of the physical. So I then said, I think my first grand strategy of finding out how to use the world's resources so they will take care of everybody would come back then to how to take care of his living equipment. This brought me then to what I call the Dymaxion Tower House, the 4D Tower House. And it was a 10-deck building which was so light and so strong as finally engineered that it could be carried by the Graf Zeppelin, which was about to be built at that time, and was perfectly flyable economically to the North Pole where it could be anchored. I gave myself then the task of designing a building which would house an airplane maintenance crew, which we'd be able to install in remote places in the Arctic so that we'd have stepping stone flights to Europe. Once I'd proven this feasibility of flying a whole building 10-decker to North Pole, I then turned to the idea of the single family. So I developed what I call the single family Dymaxion house. Looks like a house hung on a pole simply because there's a wire wheel construction, has less weight. So I turned the wire wheel over on its side. The hub is now a mast. For a family of 5, had great space in it, good-sized bedrooms, each with a bath, a large living room, utility room, library, sun deck in the top, and hangar and garage down below. The whole thing came out then 3 tons. That is, I found a house equivalent to that kind of facility with all the accessories in it. And the conventional way of building at that time ran over 150 tons, so that this was a very, very small fraction of the total weight. This then brought me to a whole series of additional experiences. Later on, 20 years later, in 1947, I developed in the Beach Aircraft Company in Wichita, Kansas, the first actual Dymaxion house. I built then with the aircraft industry's extraordinary structural capabilities. Made across all of aircraft aluminum. The mass itself was stainless steel. It consisted of 7 tubes bound together in a hexagonal collection, and each tube weighed only 10 pounds. It was 22 feet high. Top of it, you'll see the great ventilator. It's 18 feet in diameter, and it rotated as does a wind T on an airport. A low pressure area occurred at this point where we then had the ventilator tail open. We pulled the airs of the house through the completely air conditioning. You're going to see the actual Dymaxion drilling machine coming out, but as a service industry, to handle as the telephone company does, installing what you want where you want it. Just where the telephone company installs the telephone booths along the highway, and you'll be able to call up and say, I'd like to have a drilling machine over here and there, and the autonomous equipment will be coming out of the airspace technology, and so I think we're just about to realize it. I'd gone into the building world after I'd been in the world of this very advanced technology and found it crude and the exactly other end of the scale of the competence when the science was putting into the weaponry world. And I was so shocked to find how little man had in the way of science. I found no scientist that ever looked at the plumbing. Dymaxion bathroom is a solution of the place where we go in to bathe and wash and to take care of the human processes. I was able to do a whole bathroom, including what we call a manifold of plumbing, all reassembled, everything, and a manifold of wiring, and the manifold of the air conditioning for only 450 pounds. In 1933, I turned the money which I'd been given into cash I had in my pocket, and I arrived in Bridgeport, Connecticut, to produce this new ground taxing quality of the omni-medium transport. Because it just wasn't going to go on the ground, I knew people would call it an automobile. It wasn't designed just to be an automobile at all. She was so extraordinarily stable, and my center of gravity was very, very low, and for the first vehicle that ever had the center of gravity forward to the midpoint of the wheelbase. It did prove to be a very good vehicle and did have very high efficiency with 11 passengers. I averaged over 22 miles a gallon. Sometimes I got as much as 30 with 11 passengers, which is very, very high. A front-steered car with the kingpins can only steer up to 34 degrees angle. My rear rudder post I could turn so I can give it 90 degrees rudder if I wanted. This meant then when I want to come into park, there would be a space just, say, 6 inches longer than my Dymaxion car. I would simply bring my nose into the curb and then throw my rear wheel sideways, and she'd went around and drop like that.